Hey y'all, sorry. We are going to continue on with our discussion of trend lines. So we are, um, okay, sorry, you should have your notes. And we've talked about scatter plots and the different correlations and how to make a scatter plot. And now we're going to talk about a trend line. So right here, when two sets of data have a positive or negative correlation, you can use a trend line to show the correlation more clearly. A trend line is a line on a scatter plot drawn near the points that shows the correlation. So a trend line shows the trend of the data. It shows the pattern, the correlation of the data. And it gave a couple examples. And you can see here is a trend line, and here is another trend line. So the data doesn't fall directly on the line, but you can see that the line goes in the direction of the data. Now, our next objective is for us to learn how to draw a trend line, get an equation of a trend line, and then use the trend line. You can use the trend line to estimate a value between two known data values to predict a value, whoops, there's a V missing, outside the range of known data values. So there's two words. I should have gotten my highlighter. I don't have a highlighter. So there's interpolation, and if you have a highlighter or circle the word interpolation, is estimating between the known data values. Extrapolation is predicting outside the range of values. So I'm going to show you an example. The trend line that shows the relationship between two sets is most accurately is called a line of best fit. So this is like an actual equation called the line of best fit. So a trend line is when we kind of just freehand draw a line using the data scatter plot, and then we can actually get an equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, and that's going to be called the line of best fit. So we're going to do both. For this first one, make a scatter plot of the data. What is the approximate weight of a 7-month-old panda? So first we need to make a scatter plot of our data values. We have the age in months, and then we have the weight. So again, we're just plotting these points, so you do that. At 1 month, so that's 12 pounds, so it's going to be like way down here. At 2 months, so that would be 6 pounds. 3 months, 4 months, 17. So this is 6, 12, that's 18. So it'd be right below 18. 6 months is 24. 8 months is 37. 10 months is 49. And then 12 months is 54. So this is 36, 42, 48, 54. And our scatter plot has a positive correlation, and we can draw a trend line. Now, a couple of things about trend lines is you want to make sure, so make some notes down here, trend line needs to be, half the data above and half the data below a trend line. If you're just drawing a trend line, half the data above, half the data below, and it needs to go in the direction of the scatter plot. So this is a positive direction. This is a positive correlation, so you want your trend line to go in a positive direction. It looks like they kind of all go in a row, so we can just make our trend line, and you want to make sure it goes through at least 2 points. You want to make sure it goes through at least 2 points. So it's up to you which 2 points you pick. For this example, I'm just going to pick 4 and 8. So you see 4 and you see 8. So I'm going to make sure my line goes through 4 and 8, and then try to make it as straight as possible. Noticing not all of the values fall right on the line. You have some below, some above, but it's a trend line. It's just goes through. Now, we really wouldn't need to go past quadrant 1 because the baby is going to start at 0 months, so we wouldn't really need to go down into the negatives. So that's a trend line. We made a scatter plot and we drew a trend line. Now, if you flip over, if you were to flip over, and this is how you actually get an equation. So title this equation of trend line. To find the equation of a trend line, first you need to find the slope. And in this example, it gave us which 2 points to use, 4 and 8. And it actually already calculated the slope. Y minus y over x minus x, simplify, and we have the slope. So m equals 5.2. Now to write an equation of a trend line in slope-intercept form, we need to find the b. So pick a point. I'm going to pick the first point, and we know our slope. So we're going to substitute in 17.1 for y equals m, 5.2. X is 4 plus b. We've done this. Writing linear equations, we're going to multiply 5.2 times 4. We get 20.8, and then we have to subtract 20.8. And negative 3.7 is our b. That is our y-intercept. In the real world, that does not make sense to have a negative y-intercept because the Panda at 0 months is not going to be negative 3.7 pounds. There's no way. This is just the equation of our trend line in the way that, I'm just going to go back to the picture, the way that our trend line was set up was such that it would, if we continued this line, it would be in the negatives. So that is why the y-intercept was negative 3 point something. But in the real world, you would only look at quadrant 1, and it would just start at 1 month because that's what our chart starts. But again, this is a scatter plot trend line, and so it's not going to be exact because we are estimating. So now that we have the y-intercept, we can write an equation. Y equals 5.2 is our slope, x minus 3.7. Here is our equation. So that's the equation of a trend line. We've gone through everything. We've drawn a scatter plot, we drew a trend line, and we found the equation of a trend line. The last question says, estimate the weight of a 7-month-old panda. I think that was the same question. 7-month-old. So you have a couple of options. We can plug in 7 for x, or you could use your trend line. Now, I'm going to show you both. According to our graph, 7 months would be right here. And if we used our trend line and we went up 7 months, it's going to be over here between 30. So 7 months is right here. And if we went over, it's just above 30, kind of between 30 and 36. So that would be 7 months. You can use your trend line or you can use your equation. If we want to use our equation, x is 7 months. So we're going to plug in 7 for x. 5.2 times 7 minus 3.7. And we get y equals 32.7 pounds, which is kind of what we said using our trend line. It was going to be between 30 and 36, so about 33, about 33. I've shown you both. To estimate, you can use your trend line or your equation. And the other part of this is, because I'm asking about 7 months, that is within our data. That is within our data. So that would be interpolation because we know these values between two known values. This is an example of interpolation because we know the values. So no, I'm flipping back and forth, but make a note that this is interpolation because we know the values. Now in our next example, we're going to draw a scatter plot, make a scatter plot, draw a trend line, its equation, and then estimate. So we have a lot. Let's draw our scatter plot. Now this is the body length of a panda. The other one was the weight. This is the body length. So 1 month, 8. 2 months, 11.75. 3 is 15. 4 is 16.7. 5 is 20. 6 is 22. 8 is, oh, we skipped 7. 8 is 26. And then 9 months, I wonder why they skipped 7 right here. 9 months is 29.9. It's right below 30. So again, we have a very positive correlation, and we've made a scatter plot. Check. We want to draw a trend line. Remember, to draw a trend line, it needs to go through 2 points, and we want about half the data above and half the data below. So we are just going to pick it. You can look here and pick 2 points, or you can look at your trend line and pick 2 points. I'm going to pick 2, and I'm going to pick 6. Those are my 2 points. I don't know necessarily. I just picked those 2 points. I'm going to draw my trend line, and I'm stopping right here because, again, we're not going to go before 0 months of age. I have a couple of points below, I have a point above, and it goes through 2 points. So there's my trend line. Now I need to write an equation. I need to find the slope, y minus y over x minus x. So y 22.2 minus 11.75 over 6 minus 2. You can use your calculator. $10.45 over 4 and 2.6125, so we're going to round to 2.61. 2.61 is our slope, and we pick a point to find our slope-intercept form to find our y-intercept, so I'm just going to pick this point. So y equals mx plus b. I hope you're getting all this down. My y is 11.75. My slope is 2.61. My x value is 2. We're going to multiply that. 2.61 times 2. Subtract 5.22 from both sides, and we get 6.53 as our y-intercept, and that looks like it could be about right according to our trend line, maybe right above 5. So we can put everything together to find our equation. So this equation says the length y of a panda is 2.61 times the months plus 6.53, because that would be the starting height, the starting length, I mean. So we found the equation. Now, what is the approximate body length of a 7-month-old panda? 7-month-old. So again, you could use your trend line to go up here to 7, and it looks like it's going to be above 25. If I go over here, it's going to be a little bit above 25 inches. Or I can plug a 7 into my x and see. So I'm going to do that. 2.61 times 7 plus 6.53. And it is 24.8 inches. This is based on my equation, or if you just use a scatter plot, it looks like it's going to be a little bit above 25, or maybe right at 25, which this is very close to 25. Both of these are close. This is interpolation because these are between my data values that I have. If you notice, it's between 6 and between 8, so this is interpolation. This question, interpolation. If we go down here to number 2, do you think you can use the model to extrapolate, so that's outside of a 3-year-old panda? If you're looking at just this trend line, just this scatter plot and this trend line, it stops at 10 months. This particular illustration, this visual would not be good to estimate for a 3-year-old, because a 3-year-old would be 36 months. We would not want to use the scatter plot, and we would not want to use the trend line. However, we have another way to estimate, and then that would be the equation. So yes, we could, using the equation. We would need to type in 36 months for x, so 2.61 times 36. And then you need to change it to months, because if you use just 3, then it would say 3 months right here. But 36 months plus 6.53, so 100.49 inches for a panda that is 3 years old. And that is very tall, 100 inches tall. But this equation is extrapolation because 36 months falls outside of our data value. All right, we're going to practice more with trend lines in class.